Thank you, everyone. I just wanted to say, first of all, it's such a pleasure to be here at Praxis. Unfortunately, I hadn't been able to attend a Praxis since the first one in Pondicherry, and it's just amazing to see how this event has grown, to see the number of people in the room today. So I really must give a huge vote of congratulations and thanks to Amit and his team for doing such an amazing job. Also, thank you to Jose Manuel, who I think has made our job today on this session a lot easier, because I really feel like the trends and the challenges and the disruption that Jose Manuel outlined during his presentation are extremely relevant to the conversation that we're going to have here today, this morning. Some of these macro trends, some of these issues form an appropriate backdrop for the kind of perfect storm that is disrupting communications when we're talking about issues like declining trust, post-truth and fake news, digital transformation, turbulent times, and my own favorite, of course, our new robot overlords. We're very lucky to be joined this morning by some of the most powerful corporate communicators in India. These are the people bringing the power to this panel. They've all been introduced, so I'm going to just get this discussion going, really, by focusing on the level of change that all of you are seeing in the corporate communications role, how your organizations are harnessing that change, and I guess what that means for both the people that you are hiring, the people that you are developing, and in particular for the talent that you're looking to attract and retain, some of whom might be in this room, potentially. So any apologies to any employers in the audience, but I think it's clear that, when we talk about all of these changes, we have to consider the implications on the talent equation and on the skills that we're looking to develop and promote. So with all that said, I'm going to start, Sonia, with you, if you don't mind, in no particular order, and ask you, how would you characterize the level of change you're seeing in the work that you do in your role, given the changes that we're seeing across the kind of broader media and communications landscape?
Thank you, Arun. Firstly, thank you, Amit. You've put together a fantastic show. This is my first Praxis, and I really feel that I've been missing out a lot. Over to your question, Arun. In my view, there are three legs of evolution that I see. The first is the democratization of information, dissemination, and amplification. Today's social media is pretty much blurring the lines between internal and external communications. At times when there's an organizational change or a new job posting or there's a new employee engagement campaign, it's pretty much a tweet or a Facebook status update away from becoming general news. So it's imperative in this scenario that we view communication as a unified function across media and across platforms. This, to me, is the first big evolution that is happening. I am increasingly seeing communication teams across being responsible for media across platforms. So whether we begin it with traditional PR, whether it's social engagement, whether it's internal communications, whether it's employee engagement. The second evolution, in my view, is the advent of data analytics. Today, data analytics is helping us actually, drive messaging to scale. Data analytics actually is all about no longer the way we used to do it earlier, carpet bombing. It's helping us to actually do targeted communication. The tools that actually data analytics provides us is to actually monitor, analyze, and improve our communication strategies and reshape them. Therefore, the second evolution that I'm seeing is the ROI is no longer based on the size or just the message alone. The parameters that we are looking at are now reach, virality, and placement. The third evolution that I am seeing is collaboration for innovation. Now, this is the phenomena that is nascent for most of us, but in the case of tech and media companies, most of us are increasingly using it and seeing it develop as we go along. You know, a lot of people are actually using these days Twitter Blue Rooms, Reddit AMAs for controlled bridge building meetings. They are also looking at multicasting launch events. And honestly, all of this is actually happening. So that's my third evolution, collaboration for innovation. Thank you, Arun.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Sonia. Really interesting there, the 3 points that you raised. Shaily, over to you.
Thank you very much, Arun. You know, I kind of tend to agree every word of what Sonia just mentioned, and I won't like to repeat what she said, but I think one more important element that we need to understand as a part of this change is the acceptance at the senior management level. You know, at corporate communication, whenever we are proposing new ideas, we go to the management. Obviously, things are changing for all of us. We've got the new millennium, but how happy is the management to accept that change and bring it into your organization is one element which we all need to always keep in mind. And this is being more realistic rather than being just a theoretical school of thought where, you know, we have multiple things that are coming our way, but accepting the fact that management, and also to bring about that awareness. I think the corporate communicators really have an important role in now taking this new world of communication at the senior management level, giving them a kind of showing them an awareness about it, and also bringing them on their side of the table. I think that's something which we all need to constantly work around, and I think all of us face that challenge at any given stage. You know, when you're talking about change, change has to come from top bottom. And when it's top bottom, you have to make sure that you are doing a bottoms up kind of an awareness happening at the same time in an organization.
Yeah, so I think, critical point there in terms of it's easy perhaps at your level to see the changes coming, but maybe it's harder at the CEO level. Nitin, over to you.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here. I think the first admission I would like to make, there's a lot of change happening, and that's the question you ask. But whether that's enough or not is the question to my mind. Let's take a step back and realize that this is sort of the second cataclysmic change that is playing out after 2 decades. And I'm being India-specific right now. The first one was the advent of cable and satellite channels, the news in the 90s, which changed completely the landscape. And Dr. Pragnya Ram spoke about her early days and how they used to do things, and then cable and satellite happened, lots of news outlets, etc. Every generation or every 5 years, people feel, oh, there's a lot changing and we have to cope up and the complexity is increasing, etc., and so on. But really, this is the first time now that this complete paradigm is happening all over again with the advent of social media, etc. We don't really know whom we are talking to. I know we have social media influencer and you can do targeting, etc. But someone who has only superficial presence on Facebook could post something in the right groups and it could catch that virality. Yet I believe that the change that we brought about is not substantial because we're still creating campaigns like we used to do before, right? We're boosting them and we're hoping that they'll get viral. I don't know how different that is from before. We're still trying to take contentious conversations offline, right? So somebody wrote something controversial. We wouldn't play it out on social media. The idea is to get it off there and stuff. So to me, I think somebody, and this is up to the new generation of digital natives, who need to completely rewrite the communication playbook. You know, for instance, I would love to see a situation where an organization is entirely comfortable with each and every one of its employees being active on social media, posting about their views on the work that they do, the products and service of their organization, etc., and have that courage as an organization for that employee to get banned, and then in an entirely organic manner, have their co-employees or partners coming into the rescue, per se.
Yeah.
So this sort of disorganized organization, if I may say, to me would be the really next level of revolution. The thoughts may be a little radical, but I think that's where we should need to get to.
Yeah, I think that's so important. Who is going to rewrite the communications playbook? The research we've done, if you think about it, the whole media and information landscape is unrecognizable from what it was, let's say, 10 years ago. And yet most of the change we're seeing, like you just said, at both a corporate communications level and an agency level is incremental rather than fundamental. And I think you're right, this is such a big challenge. Debasis, your thoughts?
So, colleagues, good morning. I'll take it forward from what Nitin said. I constantly remind myself of three big shifts. The first is that media has gone beyond organized print, broadcast, online. Today, anyone with a digital instrument is a channel. So, media is everyone, everywhere. That's the first big shift. If media is everyone, everywhere, then every contact of an organization, either through its people or through its product, is content.
Yep.
Unknowingly, 24/7, an organization is getting drawn into conversations and therefore is becoming stories. That's the second big shift. And that has impact on us communicators. First, we as communicators need to be acutely conscious of our context, which is the setting in which the organization acts. And we need to, more importantly, sensitize everyone in the organization, and that responsibility most probably is that of communicators today, that you are actually in a live reality show. And that's the third big shift.
Can I ask just one quick follow-up before I come to you? When you say you're in a live reality show, how do you mean? I mean, can you maybe expand a little bit on that?
Arun, I wouldn't take names, but when you exhort a consumer of your service to leave a machine that consumer is using in a manner which is rather different from what would happen in a more civilized manner, and that goes viral, that individual possibly does not know what she or he is doing, but it became a story.
Right. Okay. Poonam,
Yes.
last but by no means least.
So thank you so much for inviting us here, Amit. And I just love to see this room full of so many people whose job is communication. So wonderful to see you all, and I hope I get a chance to connect with at least some of you during the day. So coming to your what you said, I think what he said about live reality show, and I'll just take it from there, because at PepsiCo, it's a 24/7 live reality show. And so thank you for giving me that word. And it is really about going back to every citizen, I think, with a phone becomes a journalist. Yeah, so you have content coming from every part of the country. We have 22 brands, okay? So and we're all consumer-facing brands. And you have consumers writing to you before the media writes to you. And therefore, your response time, the big shift I see is it's instantaneous. You don't have time to get people aligned, legal aligned, corporate affairs aligned. You have to respond fast. So therefore, if it's instantaneous, how do you get everybody aligned? How do you make that shift in the organization? How do you get people to understand that this cannot wait for tomorrow? This cannot wait for 6 hours also. You have to respond now. So that is the one big shift. And how do you deal with that? That's one. The second, I think, even us as communication people, we just need to unlearn a lot of things that we have learned over the last couple of years. The way we have done press releases, the way we have done communication, that doesn't stick anymore. So you have to unlearn a lot of, and that does not mean that you don't, we don't have advantages of what we did in the past. I think this is a huge add-on to what you did in the past. That's the second one. And the third one is the changing dynamics within the organization. Because digital is like this new beast in town. You know, everybody is feeling the beast or the elephant from different sides. So marketing thinks about it differently, we think about it differently, and it has to all be cohesive. So how do you bring that cohesiveness in the organization? And I firmly believe that communications people are best suited to do that. Because we are all about storytelling. We're not just about writing 3 lines of copy. So it's all about storytelling, it's all about message delivery, and it really won't matter in another 2 to 3 years which line, which stream are you coming from, because the space is going to be just digital.
So just one quick follow-up there. Yeah. I mean, I would agree, I think communicators are best placed to lead that collaboration. Absolutely. But do you feel that that sentiment is shared by the people making those decisions, deciding who will lead the collaboration? It does seem sometimes like marketing is more often given that role to lead content and communication.
So, you know, with all due respects to marketing, and I think what we do is marketing as well, right? I mean, when you're talking about a brand or an issue, we are a marketer as well. It's just about when you look at it, traditional marketing, when they look at digital, they look at click-throughs. When we look at digital, we look at engagement. We look at influence. And I think that's the shift they're also seeing. And I see that happening in our organization, definitely.
Okay. So just picking up on a couple of points that we heard just then, it's a live reality show. I think it's a great way of describing it. We need to rewrite the playbook. We need to unlearn everything that we've been taught. So Sonia, I'll address the next question to you. Who are the people who are going to rewrite the playbook and help us unlearn everything? What are the implications of all of these changes we just talked about? What are the implications on the talent that you're trying to hire and develop?
I think the first fundamental problem that we're dealing with when we're hiring is to first determine whether the role requires to be hired is for a generalist or a specialist. You know, most of the times, once we determine whether the role is required to be a generalist and a specialist, traditional wisdom dictates that, you know, as you go along higher up the hierarchy, the role will be strategic, and therefore the role needs to be that of a generalist. However, even that notion is getting challenged as we move along, right? Because we are moving in an ecosystem where the core function is a specialist. However, you need to have an industry view. So at the same time, you also need to have a generalist orientation. So, you know, you're kind of wondering, should you take a specialist, should you take a generalist? But in my view, you need to look at both. You just can't look at either or. It can't be an equation of is. It needs to be an equation of and. It can't be either or.
Okay, so you're looking for generalists and specialists. Are there people that can do both?
Say that again?
Are there people that can do both? For example, you have this idea of T-shaped people.
So if you're looking at the younger crop of the talent, right, they're, as it is, very attuned to, you know, the larger environment. You know, their levels of self-actualizations are also really high. So you are looking at that kind of environment right now. So you are looking at people who are specialists at their core, and they're also developing the industry view as they go along.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, that's a big debate, always big debate. Generalist versus specialist, and we can maybe talk about that more when we open it up to the audience. Shaily, what do you see as the biggest challenge for you when it comes to the talent you're looking to hire and develop?
Well, you know, in the recent past, we've noticed, you know, while we talk about different kinds of changes in the communication strata, Content is one area where we are always grappling, because we do talk about communication. Everybody needs to understand that content is no more the king. Content is today the emperor. So how well can people really understand the business? How quick are they to learn the industry that they're part of and be able to be good storytellers? So I have been constantly seeing in my experience, when we're looking for people, how good a storyteller am I able to get into my team? To train them about my industry, I've worked across different industries from IT to telecom and now in the B2G space. To understand the industry you're a part of, you will be a part of that learning curve. But are you able to do the whole translation into a good storytelling? That's where the challenge really comes. So I'm grappling to get really in the hiring space good storytellers.
Okay,
Yeah.
so if there are any good storytellers out there, then here's your opportunity. Nitin, over to you.
Don't have a complex requirement for our industry and our group. All that we're looking for is someone who's a wizard in Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, maybe even Saraha, Quora. Someone who has a deep understanding of SEO and social media buying. He needs to have an in-depth understanding of machine learning and AI, and how to integrate IoT with communication.
So not much then.
Not really much. Okay, but let me get serious. It hasn't changed radically, believe me. All one looks for is a positive attitude and an aptitude to learn. Now these sound very easy, but they are very difficult to get. The fact is our industry doesn't really get the cream of talent from others. At the last count, actually, there are just about 600 exactly good professionals in the industry. And by the way, they're all sitting in this room here. But so the talent that one gets in this industry then obviously moves up really fast. And if I may argue, sometimes a little too fast. And therefore, there's a mismatch in what you're wanting to get and the person's aspirations. So if I'm looking to hire a manager, the person's probably already moved, and if the person's good, in another organization, he's probably moved up to associate director level. So he's definitely not going to come and join. So I've had to actually look outside. So I had to hire from B schools, people who were not specialized in communication, but at least went to top B schools to get some really sharp talent.
Okay, interesting. Debasis, how do you see the talent equation from your perspective?
See, Arun, success is collective. So one hires for complementarity. I always look at aspects which I am bad at. So therefore, an individual has to compliment me for that. Having said that, always find that, it's all right, always find that individuals who are interested in experimenting and individuals who have a keen interest in the world that we live in, these are very positives for me.
So curiosity and experimentation. So softer skills rather than harder.
Yes, and that's particularly because I am poor at experimentation. I'm a regimented guy.
Okay. Poonam, you told us before that you can't find any good talent out there. So why not?
Let me rephrase what I said.
Okay, sorry, I may have modified that slightly.
So we were having this discussion a while back, and I think the struggle for us is when you're looking for digital people, where do you hire them from? Do you hire them from a digital agency that's more marketing driven, or do you hire them from, do you go back to ad agency, people who are doing digital there, or do you go to PR agencies? I think that's where the struggle is, because what we're looking for, I don't see many people, and it's honestly, this phase is evolving. This is not, if someone today tells me that I know exactly what we need to do on digital, I would love to have that conversation, because it's not something, I mean, I've been in companies where digital has always been at the forefront, and every day I'm learning new things, every day, okay? So, you know, when we're picking people, one is, of course, you look for the attributes like, yes, critical. Are you innovative? Are you, risk averse? How much are you willing to take that chance? And how much is the organization willing to back that? Are you someone who wants to learn things, passionate? Those are the basics, I think. But then getting out and doing the job, where do you pick the right talent from? I think that's a challenge that I still think we have.
Do you feel there's a training deficit in terms of
There is.
in terms of developing these people?
Absolutely. And I think this is all, whatever you do on digital, you learn by, I think a lot of us are learning by on the go, on the job, practice. And there are, when you have someone coming to you and say, I did this really kick-ass campaign, sometimes, even within the organization, there are debates on where did it all start from. Did it start from the digital team? Did it start from the ad team? And we've had multiple things like that. So who started it? And then where is the skill, the right skill coming from? And just to step back a little, if you look at any campaign that we have happening, the ad agencies still look at them as digital, as here's what we do for print, here's what we do for TVC, here's what we do for digital. That's not the way it works. And I think they're also learning. Everyone, so which is why I'm saying it's evolving, people are learning. Digital is a different animal altogether. You need to treat it differently, so.
Okay, so we've talked a little bit, and I think what has come to light really is this kind of the mix of harder specialist skills, the need still for generalists who understand the business, for example, and understand the traditions of storytelling, but of course also the softer skills. So maybe we could talk about the softer skills a little bit, because I think sometimes that gets overlooked in this debate. Qualities such as curiosity, courage, leadership skills. Sonia, I'll come to you. Do you feel like you're finding the kind of soft skills that you need from the people in your department? And maybe what's your advice to people with that in mind if they're looking to build their communications careers?
I think a couple of areas for softer skills. You should have people management skills, which is a given. The second fundamental skill that one should definitely have is the ability to hustle. It's extremely important. The third, in my view, is tenacity. The fourth, in my view, is to be able to lobby. If you have a combination of all of these, definitely you can apply at Viacom 18, because that is something that I'm going to be looking for.
And are you seeing enough of that? Are you seeing enough people with that combination?
So you're seeing a combination of hard and soft skills. You're not getting the perfect mix for sure, but people are evolving as we speak. It's not just about that, I can write really well, but you know what, don't ask me to do media relations. So you're getting a combination, but not the absolute combination.
Okay. Shaily, your thoughts here?
Yeah, we do look at, in my team also, and of course in the organization, we do see a need for a good blend of hard skills and soft skills, And when we talk of soft skills, we're really talking about being able to mix well with the rest of the other departments as well, being able to work with, be good in collaboration. I think one element of an important skill in the business we are in is how we can collaborate with other departments, with other stakeholders, because communication is not just about doing things which is a part of your KRA. Today, your biggest KRA is how well can you network within the organization. Your stakeholders, if you're a media person, you're not just speaking to the press, you're just not speaking to PR agencies, you're also speaking to your stakeholders who are really the guys whose message you need to cascade out, take outside and also speak within. So from an internal comm perspective or external communication, how well can you connect with your stakeholders in the organization, I think is an important part of communication. And collaboration and networking is, I think, just the need of the hour.
Okay. Nitin, what are your thoughts here? Because I know when we've talked about this before, you've mentioned you know, the importance of leadership qualities in terms of the people that you're looking to develop.
I think two things to gain true leadership and acceptance. One is what I call organizational savvy, which includes a lot of what she just said, right? Capability to collaborate, carry people along within the organization, you know, let them open up to you so that you get enough information in advance if there's a potential crisis brewing, etc. They feel very comfortable coming to you. The capability to navigate, you know, within the organization, understanding the real power structure, which may be separated from titles and designation. So basically, how to get work done in a large organization and effectiveness. So I sort of put all this under organizational savvy. And the second, which I think is self-explanatory, is to develop the ability to zoom in and zoom out. Mm-hmm. So, you know, easier said than done when you are writing a press release or making media follow-up calls or, you know, trying to do a Facebook post boost. All of these are very tactical, and a lot of times you get consumed in that. But very important to be able to zoom out and see how each of those actions will benefit the organization in the short, medium, long term. So I think if a person gets these two, he can be a very, very successful leader.
Okay, and Debasis, you already talked about curiosity and experimentation. What else are you looking for in terms of soft skills, and are you finding them?
Arun, it's like this, and this made it very sharp for me a couple of weeks back. I was reading this article, and it said that a communicator, any one of us, is very often dismissed as that sound box. Mm-hmm. Someone decides what to say, mm-hmm. and you are the sound box. Yeah. The communicator has to work against that bias. And I can only recall at two of my most trying moments in my 30 years now, two of my most loved bosses told me that when your conscience says that something is right, go out and do it. Mm-hmm. And I would leave that, I would parrot it here. One does that by trying to plug oneself into conversations that are taking place inside an organization. Taking every opportunity to plug yourself in conversations that are taking place inside the organization so that you take part in defining the stance of the organization and not only parrot it. And doing that, one way of doing that is that when something is coming to me and when I am passing it inside the organization, I'm not simply passing it, I'm passing it with a solution, with a suggested solution. Mm-hmm. And the other way of maybe imagining it is this, that my organization is large, it requires a 10-member team, it requires 3 agencies, but I imagine that I am the only person. So this is what I would say.
And what you're talking about also requires courage, right? Because you're going to be called on, and if you are being true to what you think, there are going to be times where you'll have to tell senior management, people above you, that no, this isn't the right decision, you shouldn't be doing this. I mean, how hard is that?
It requires courage. Mm-hmm. And it requires to accept that a piece of action can go wrong. It can go wrong. It has happened with me a couple of times. It has impacted me on one occasion I can distinctly remember. Decades back, Debasis is very over-enthusiastic. But a great organization, overall, will always recognize a manager who's taking a decision and going out and doing it because it is the right thing to do. The individual thought it's the right thing to do. Mm-hmm. A great organization will always recognize that. A second incident happened with me about 11 years back. I did something. The intent was right. It would have gone right. The context changed. I got a call. The boss is livid. When I explained the context of why I took that piece of action, it was explained 5 months down the line, I was given a responsibility which was even larger. So one has to take that.
I don't know if I may add. I think
Sure.
if you have organizations, and good organizations are those that actually celebrate failure, because they trust you that sometimes there will be misfires, but they will not forego that for the sake of innovation. You know, only when you allow somebody to fail will you actually allow them to exceed and excel. So if you can celebrate and recognize failure, I think half your battle is won. And great organization, that's the difference between a great organization and okay.
And I would add to what Sonia said. So, and it's very difficult to accept failure.
I know.
You know, celebrating failure, it calls for guts, right? And
Courage,
yeah,
you were speaking.
and I think so. You know, we've been talking about celebrating failure even within in our organization. We've actually instituted an award which is called Dare to Fail.
Oh, wow.
Okay, and where it's documented. You tried this, you went through these things, but it didn't work. And here's what I learned from it. And it's actually celebrated. You every month. We have one category. Sometimes we have people there, sometimes we don't, but we have that out there on our monthly town halls.
Wow, that's such a great idea. I mean, I'd love to see that in more places.
It's very difficult to accept that and then have the courage to go out and say that, you know, I tried and it failed.
I think the way to accept is not call it failure, call it learning. Because
Sure.
there's nothing that is
that's
right
a
or wrong.
positive.
You tried.
Yeah.
And there's something out of it that will come out.
And I think it just goes back to the organization culture. And if the organization is willing to accept that, the organization is willing to give you that cover, that's where it works. And, you know, coming back to the question, one of the things that I've again actually learned from one of my bosses, if you put the organization first, the team second, and yourself as an individual third, that's really where, you know, things fall into place. Think of the organization, what you're doing is good for the organization, right? Second is team, third is you as an individual. The moment you turn that upside down, that's when it becomes individualistic. I did this because this idea was good and I went out and did it and, well, you know what, it failed. But if you thought about the organization and you did it and then it failed, the conversation is very different. So I think that's one. But you know, coming back to your original question of soft skills, I think one of the things that I look for and I ensure that's a part of the JD is people with passion. Super important to get people with passion. Passion to do things, passion to take chances, passion to take risks. I think that is a very, very important part. And in the new world, agility. How agile are you? How are you able to move across the organization and get people aligned? Though I hate the word alignment because it's like the most abused word, but
there's many contenders.
Yes, yeah, but it's important to get the organization with you. So again, how are you able to, and more organizations are becoming matrix organizations. So the ability to collaborate, work across the organization, I think that becomes very, very important.
Okay. It says we have just a couple of minutes left, but I think we have a little bit more because we started a little late. So I'm going to open up to questions from the audience. So please don't be shy because this is your chance. Okay, yeah, we've got two.
My name is Ishita. I manage corporate communications for Group M. And my question is actually to everybody in the panel. Today we've spoken about digital engagement, data, all of that. But when we're talking about the future of communications, where does measurement lie? Because everything that we measure today, even with engagement in data and digital, it's all output. So there is a gap between output and outcome. And how should we as communicators bridge that gap?
So we need to have another session, I think, for this one. But anyway, I'll throw that. Who wants to crack the measurement question?
How closely do you work with the the folks within Group N who do media planning and analysis? Sorry? Very closely, right. Yeah, got that. So we know where that question is coming from. You know, measurement didn't even feature here, right? I think the right people to answer this on, you know, where is communication on the stage of measurement is Asim and some of the folks from AMEC. I think they're doing great work. The simple answer is we know that social media is far more measurable. A lot of us are doing that. But again, I would go back to the fact that we're probably scratching the surface. Need to do far more. I think advertising, as an example, which is very close to us, has been through that whole Rubicon on probably trying to over-measure, over-analyze, and then probably saying, well, we also got to go back and do gut feel. And we probably not even started that journey yet. The good thing is, with the advent of social media and it going mainstream, there is no choice left with us. All of us will end up learning very rapidly and doing more of very, very measurement, target-based campaigns.
Base metrics and so forth.
We're trying. We're trying, but that was a good question, Ishita, because we all struggle, honestly, with that. How do you measure? Is views the right way? Is engagement the right model? How does that translate into sales? You know, I am not a big believer of, for example, you know, putting all your money on YouTube masthead, one day, blow the money, and is that the right view, is the right way, or having, you know, a more engaged influencer campaign, is that the right way? So it's very nebulous. I mean, while there are measures, while there are organizations that are doing that, you have Impact, you have Cirrus, but I think it's still a challenge. I don't think we've, at least at PepsiCo, we're still figuring out. So we haven't cracked it.
Okay. Next question. Apparently we only have time for 2 more, so this gentleman here. We have 1 more.
Hi. Am I audible? Am I audible?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. I'm Arun from PR Pandit. Sonia, I actually, have agreed to all your points. Like, today, messaging is data-driven. And while my question is to Poonam, I was listening to Dr. Shivakumar, the Pepsi head, India, who had a recent interview with Shireen. So I think so, Dr. Shivakumar?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I was listening to him recently. So one of the things that he was talking about was that how to communicate with the millennials, right? Because communicating with the millennials is the key right now for communicators, right? Because they are the decision makers going forward.
Absolutely.
And one of the things that we're looking at as communicators is how to deal with them. Because traditional media is more focused on people who are above, let's say, 40 years or 35 plus years. But when it comes to mobile generation,
Yes.
the millennial is the key one. And whereas where your PepsiCo company comes into play is that how the top head deals with them internally and externally. And as a challenge, we are looking, are you looking at now the question is, are you looking at a challenge when you develop a team? Are you looking for a person to support you, who is, let's say, 7 to 8 years of experience? Are you looking for a fresher who is digitally enabled, who can be transformed into a traditional or developed into a more specialist person?
So, first of all, communication teams are never big. I think all of us know that. They're like small teams. You're already always hinging your resources. So if I have to look for a digital person, and we are actually looking for a digital person at a sector level, so I think there are layers, depends on what the objective is. Will I hire a fresher? Yeah, maybe we will, but at the moment, I think there will be some skills that we need. If I'm talking purely about communication, I would need someone with at least 4 or 5 years of experience who has done this. Is not just, one is a digital native, obviously, if you're looking at, if you have some 4 or 5 years only. But somebody who's tried and tested, done that, because you learn so much from them. You learn from the young people that you hire in the team all the time. So, and digital, if you're looking for people, we will always look for people who are, the millennials, and the, people, like I said, digital natives.